Greetings and salutations. I'm the fallen angel Christopher Daniels.
Hello, yes, Danhausen here to tell you, deliver a very nice, very evil message, if you will.
This is NXT superstar Dexter Lumis.
What's up, everybody? It's me, your buddy, your pal, Scott Stanford.
Hey, this is Big Sexy Kevin Nash.
This is the former intellectual savior of the masses, now known as Aaron Stevens, your NWA third-degree national champion.
This is Dr. Britt Baker, DMD, the role model, and you are listening to Greg Morgan with Good Mic Work Commentaries.
And I want to tell you, Greg, your buddy Howie, also known as Wheezy, as you call him, he told me all about your channel. I'm here to tell everybody that I've seen it, I've watched it, I've looked at it. I went down the rabbit hole and I couldn't get out of it. It was so good.
Yeah, you better watch this channel. You better watch all the videos.
I'm about to go and watch a few videos myself.
Watch them 5 times a piece. That's right, I said 5 times a piece. Do it.
I know you've been a fan for like 40 years. I've only been doing it for 30, so I guess we were fans together there for 10 of it.
Do it.
He's not going to fill your head with bullshit. He's going to tell you real deal, what's up, and that's that.
Do it.
Good Mic Work is the place to be for all your wrestling information, guaranteed.
The best wrestling content is right here at Good Mic Work Commentary.
Good Mic Work Commentaries.
Good Mic Work Commentaries.
Good Mic Work Commentaries.
Check out Good Mic Work Commentaries.
Good Mic Work Commentaries.
Check out Good Mic Work Commentaries on YouTube.
Subscribe, share, love, like, poke, whatever you need to do.
If you don't, we're gonna have a problem.
Love that, Danhausen. Love that Good Mic Work Commentaries.
Do it now.
You're welcome.
Are Drew McIntyre and Kenny Omega on their way to becoming world champions of their respective brands? Why in the world was Zelina Vega released? Pac has returned to AEW. Shaq is on his way to AEW. Little Miss Bliss gets engaged. We've got a big Survivor Series preview on the horizon. Chelsea Green gets injured on SmackDown. And we've got some big title matches coming up this week in wrestling. What's going on, guys? Welcome to a very special Sunday edition of the Winged Eagle Podcast. I apologize for coming up here a day late. My main job was beckoning me yesterday, and there was no way to get out of it, and I want to sincerely apologize for the two very selfish assholes who decided to get married on the same day that I usually like to do my podcasts. I think that was extremely inconsiderate of them, and they needed my restaurant to cater the wedding, and I was none too pleased with them, and I let them know about it, that it was very rude of them to choose that particular day to get married when they could have just done it today or tomorrow or like on a Wednesday afternoon at the courthouse or something. But no, it's got to be this big, beautiful oceanfront wedding, taking away from you guys and taking away from the Winged Eagle Podcast on Saturday. So hopefully no more selfish people will stand in our way of being able to talk about wrestling news on the weekends. And I know a lot of you guys are watching the NFL games right now, so those of you who are taking a break from that, coming over here to talk some wrestling with me, you won't be disappointed because it's a loaded episode. So much to get into. Big, long week last week in wrestling and a big upcoming week this week, including Survivor Series 1 week from today. It's loaded. We're going to talk about all of the news, including a special tribute to Eddie Guerrero. The 15th anniversary of his death just passed this past Friday, I believe. And, of course, we're going to talk about the Zelina Vega release that also happened on Friday. Chelsea Green got injured on Friday. Little Miss Bliss got engaged last night. The Wednesday Night War shows were great this past week with an awesome Dynamite episode and a really good NXT episode, too, with a major upset. Friday's SmackDown was very interesting, and WWE might be shifting gears again and setting up another a title feud or title program that we weren't expecting with Drew McIntyre showing up on SmackDown. So there's all sorts of what-ifs and scenarios to get into, and of course we're going to preview this coming Sunday's Survivor Series. I'm going to go through my schedule for this coming week because we have a lot of videos coming to the channel. I got some patrons to shout out. I got to talk to you guys in the chat and all that good stuff. Can I be heard? Yeah. All right, we look good. How y'all doing? What do we got in here? Okay, good little handful of people in here so far. Good to see you, Jet the Hawk and Cody and Tim. Barry, what's up? No, Sean, Ben, Joshua, Mystery, Jose, Ungovernable. How Wheezy, what's up? Yeah, I'm hoping it's going to be a good episode. It's definitely going to be an eventful one because there's no shortage of things to talk about. I was actually not up here last week for a normal Winged Eagle because we were talking about the Full Gear pay-per-view. So it's kind of been a week since we went through the entire week of wrestling and discussed random things all throughout the week. So what's going to be on the menu here? We're going to get into the wrestling news first. Then I'm going to start with AEW and then finish up with NXT. Then we'll get into tomorrow night's Raw, big title match for tomorrow night. We'll get into what happened on Friday night on SmackDown, and we'll take a look at the current Survivor Series card as it stands right now, because as of after tomorrow, it could change. And you'll get my full predictions and everything this coming Saturday on the regularly scheduled Winged Eagle when we'll predict the entire Survivor Series card and all that. So that's what you have to look forward to tonight in this episode. I want to give you guys a quick scheduling note as well. This coming Wednesday, I'm going to be dropping a special podcast on The Undertaker's history at Survivor Series. Basically, it's going to be the complete Undertaker history at Survivor Series, all 18 episodes or 18, pay-per-views that he appeared in, his won-loss record, talk about each and every match kind of in detail. I thought that would be a fun Undertaker-related video to do. I thought about just doing like a standalone Survivor Series, classic Survivor Series review that featured a big Undertaker match, but the more I thought about it, a couple of years ago, I did the entire streak. We talked about every single WrestleMania victory he had. And even though he hasn't competed at a ton of Survivor Series, I think he's only wrestled once in the last 10 years there. He's still had a lot of matches and a lot of memorable matches on the show. So that is not going to be a live stream. That's going to be a recorded podcast, and that's going to drop on the channel Wednesday morning, just ahead of Survivor Series, which brings me to my other review that's also in the works. I want to apologize to Patreon supporter Michael Tong, who sponsored a review on Beyond the Mat. I was right in the middle of doing that when I decided just to pause it and work on this Undertaker video instead, because I really wanted to get something up for Survivor Series and, to commemorate the 30th anniversary of The Undertaker. So Beyond the Mat just went on the back burner for a second. I'm going to do the Undertaker video first and then finish Beyond the Mat, and the Beyond the Mat review will hit the channel Thanksgiving weekend. I'm not sure the exact date, maybe Thanksgiving Day, maybe the day after, maybe Black Friday, something like that. But during the holiday here in the United States, with a lot of people off and the holiday season kind of kicking off, I thought that would be a perfect, nice little bonus episode to throw up on the channel for Thanksgiving weekend. So I apologize for the short delay there, Michael, but we had to do something for The Undertaker's 30th. So we're going to push Beyond the Mat to Thanksgiving. So the month of November is going to close out here pretty strong on the channel. But let's not screw around anymore. We got to shout out the patrons, and then let's get into the wrestling news because we got a ton of it. Let me shout out real quick the supporters, the current patrons on the Patreon page over there: Alex Dredge and Apron Bump Podcast, Alan Carter, Brandon Yelverton, Michael Tong, just shouted you out a second ago, Nick Musser, Jimmy Anderson, K-Dog's Kennel, Ryan Y, Devlin Husband, John Redifer, Claudio Clavidetcher, Jordan Carg, Daniel Rodriguez, what's up, Barry MK, he's here, Josiah Blevins, Mr. Steve, Scott Moss, Domanian, Ewell, John Riffle, Michael Cuomo, Naveed, Keith Salyers, Nathan Walker, Alex Reynolds, and Blake Moran. Thanks as always, guys. I appreciate it. If you would like to support this channel any way other than subscribing and liking this video, you can do so over at patreon.com/goodmicwork. All right, that's enough of the pleasantries. We have to get into stuff. Otherwise, we're going to be here until midnight discussing what is just a juicy episode. First and foremost, though, before we get into the news, I just want to give a quick, short tribute to Eddie Guerrero, who we lost 15 years ago this past Friday. He passed away on November 13th, 2005. And throughout the years on the channel, we've talked a lot about Eddie. As a matter of fact, I know I did a review of his DVD, his WWE documentary. I think Barry sponsored that a couple of years back, if I'm not mistaken. I remember that being a good DVD, but I also remember that really omitting a lot of his life. Probably not the best overall look at Eddie Guerrero's life. So if you want some Eddie Guerrero related content, you can find that also on my channel. Also, this past year during the Chris Benoit Dark Side of the Ring episode, they spent a lot of time on Eddie in that episode. So much time, in fact, that I thought there was enough there to be a standalone episode. It even makes me question whether or not they'll ever do a complete episode on Eddie for Dark Side of the Ring because of how much they got into regarding his death and, and some of the personal troubles that he had leading up to it and all of that. But 15 years is crazy that it's gone by that quick. It's been 21 years since we lost Owen now. And I've said several times throughout the years, many times, in fact, that I believe that Eddie Guerrero was like the generation after me. That was your Owen Hart. You know, for me, you know, the Owen one ripped my heart out, and I don't think I've ever really fully recovered, to be perfectly honest. And I think Eddie is that way with a lot of fans that were like one generation after me kind of thing. And Eddie was still like a huge blow, you know, but by that point I had already become numb. You know, by then it was already, you know, Bruiser Brody and Eddie Gilbert and the Von Erichs, and then you had Pillman, and then you had Owen, and then you had Rude, and then you had Davey and Mr. Perfect, and just so many. The list goes on and on. Hawk, Miss Elizabeth, Crash Holly committed suicide. You know, so many deaths. It was one after another, and I was already getting to my tipping point as far as like what I was going to be able to tolerate as a wrestling fan, because I was just mind blown at this just landslide of deaths. So I've told the story a million times. I'll never forget it. Woke up on the 13th of 2005. I had one of those old, you know, computers that had the big giant, you know, honking monitors that took up like half your desk. And my morning routine would just would to get up out of bed, usually sit down at my desk, check some email, and I'd usually check wrestling news. And back then I went to onewrestling.com a lot. It was just one of my go-to sites that I went to. So I have my email up in one window, and I open up another one, just pull up onewrestling.com, just casually, you know, just kind of still look at my email. I glance at the page, and I'm like, and I just see at the very top, Eddie Guerrero passes away. And I don't even remember really clicking on the article, because I kind of knew. I'm like, well, this probably has to be a sudden type of thing, found in his hotel room type of thing. And I just read a tiny bit about it, and I kind of closed the computer in disgust. And I was done with wrestling for about 5 months after that. I was so like just deflated. I'm like, oh, you know, another one. This guy just had a match on SmackDown a couple of days ago. You know, now it's happening to current roster members, and boy, would it get a lot worse in 2 years when Benoit would do what he did. But I just remember just like enough's enough. And I really didn't watch wrestling at all. I remember being aware of Ray winning the Rumble, but I didn't start paying attention again until WrestleMania, when Bret Hart went into the Hall of Fame, which was the same show that Eddie also went into the Hall of Fame. So that was, I think it was Bret was the only thing that really brought me back, but also it was because I wanted to see, you know, Eddie remembered. And I knew that, you know, he was going to be going into the Hall of Fame, and they were going to have kind of Ray do a tribute to him, winning the Rumble, winning the world title. You could kind of see that was the direction they were going in. And some people, you know, supported it and some people didn't. But, you know, overall it was something that, you know, kind of brought me back. So, you know, Eddie's death was almost like so sad that it soured me on everything, you know. And then I just, you know, kind of submitted, came back to wrestling, and had to watch, you know, so many more even after Eddie also pass away. But, you know, he was so supremely talented, and his story was so good because of, you know, where he came from, you know, his family, getting to WCW, coming in with the Radicals, having his issues there, being let go, coming back with a redemption story. And then in 2004, he beats Brock Lesnar and wins the title and successfully defends it at WrestleMania, which only a handful of guys have ever done. Ever. You know, it was awesome. I mean, I think the fans were happier to see Eddie win the title than any other, you know, guy that was kind of given the title based on him earning it, not being the big charismatic Hogan guy, but just being the guy that can go out there and work. I don't remember, you know, even with Benoit later on that night in WrestleMania 20, I still felt like there was just a little bit more love in the fans' heart for Eddie than there was for Chris. And so, you know, his death was probably one that slashed, you know, just put a deep cut in wrestling all throughout it. Not only the fans, but all the wrestlers there. They were destroyed. Of course, in Dark Side of the Ring, we saw what Eddie's death did to Chris Benoit. And it's one of the saddest deaths we've ever seen. But, you know, we always try to do our best to remember Eddie in a positive light, because that's what WWE has done. He had a tremendous career, and, you know, you can never, even to this day, his matches hold up still, even with the crazy shit you see today. His matches hold up as just as good as anything you will see in New Japan, AEW, WWE, NXT. He was a true pro. I remember in the excuse me, in the CM Punk DVD, when Eddie, I think, was released from WWE, maybe like 2001, 2002, when Punk was just starting to bubble on the independent scene, and they had a match together, and Punk was like, that's when I was humbled. He goes, because at that point, I felt like I was gaining steam, felt like I was gaining momentum, felt like I was a leader. I knew what I was doing, and, you know, I had a future in the business, and then I get in the ring with Eddie Guerrero and completely kills my confidence. he is what a true professional is. The way he can move and the things he can do in there was like, none other. And he's another guy. I know I always point to Eddie, or I point to Chris Benoit and Triple H, but he's another guy that would have been very useful in the Invasion angle. I don't think Eddie was there for that. I believe he was let go during that time. Either that or he was injured. I don't remember. But he's another guy that I think was a big missing piece out of that whole angle that could have made it a hell of a lot better, especially with some of the history with him in WCW. So anyway, rest in peace to Eddie Guerrero. It's been 15 years. That's nuts. Oh man, I was only like 29 years old when he died. Fucking crazy. Anyway, but yeah, wanted to at least acknowledge Eddie's death and all of that. So anyway, rest in peace, Eddie. The other news we got to get into first, of course, is Zelina Vega. Let me just bust out 2 of these super chats real quick. What's up, Joshua? Thanks, man, for the $5. Hey, my 10th birthday was the day Eddie died. Oh man, he's my favorite wrestler, and I was devastated. Yeah, I hear that from a lot of my listeners, and especially of that generation, especially that happening on your birthday. That's fucking awful, man. By the way, happy birthday to Macho Man Randy Savage today. I don't know how old he would have been, but today is his birthday. It's also the anniversary of The Rock winning the WWE title at the Survivor Series in 1998. I'll never forget watching that pay-per-view with my friend Daniel on pay-per-view. I ordered it. I still have the original recording still in my collection. And I remember I wasn't quite on the Rock bandwagon yet. I was more of an Austin guy. And he was firmly behind The Rock. And boy, he loved rubbing that in my face. But I also could see the writing on the wall. As soon as The Rock won the title at Survivor Series, I'm like, Rock and Austin, WrestleMania. And that's what they did. But it was a well-executed swerve. I felt like I should have seen it coming, but I didn't. And I liked that they pulled it off a year after the actual screw job. They even got the jump on Wrestling with Shadows because I think the finish of the Survivor Series happened prior to the release of the documentary. And it was all just so brilliantly done. And it launched The Rock only 2 years in, which even back at that point was extremely uncommon for somebody to be given the keys to the store, especially surrounded by the talent they had at that time at such a young age. And I don't know whatever happened to Dwayne. Apparently, he tried his hand at acting. I think he did like 1 or 2 movies. Both of them went to straight to video. And I believe he currently manages a Hobby Lobby, if I'm not mistaken. But whatever Dwayne Johnson is up to these days, we wish him well because that was quite a memorable moment back in 1998. Deshaun Robinson, what's up, man? Thanks for the $5. It's crazy because there were reports that he was supposed to win the World Heavyweight title before his death. I remember that. And I always questioned it because I felt like at that time, they only put the title on him for a short time in 2004. And as a fan, I didn't feel it. Like, I didn't feel like that was the direction they were going in on TV. So I always rejected the idea. But people still, they corroborate the story and say, no, I think WWE might have actually been planning to do that because they were setting something up with him and Batista. So that might have been the plan. I, in my head, was finding it hard to believe. But, man, if Eddie would have gotten one more run there in, like, late 05, early 06, or at least traded the belt back and forth with Batista, maybe won it, and then dropped it back to him at the Royal Rumble prior to WrestleMania, something like that, would have been awesome. Would have been awesome. What's up, Chris? Thanks, man, for the $5. I asked Solomonster the same question his podcast. I'd like to ask you. Better Warrior match, WrestleMania 6 versus Hogan or Savage at WrestleMania 7? I don't know what Solomonster said. I'm going WrestleMania 6. Only just because of the magnitude of it, and I thought that Hogan and Warrior, based on the type of workers they were at the time, that was probably the best match either one of those guys were going to get. I would love to give Savage the credit for carrying the Warrior because Rick Rude did that a lot too, and so did DiBiase and a lot of guys like that he worked with. And Savage pulled a great match out of the Warrior at WrestleMania 7. I think what hurts the match for me was the theatrics at the end. I wasn't a fan of it. I thought it was hokey and cheesy. And I think the match was great if you would have taken away that. Even the finish, like Randy Savage being my second favorite wrestler of all time, I don't like to see a shithead like the Warrior pin him with a boot in the chest. But it was still a statement moment, and it was still just a really big, like, holy shit, wow, he just put him down and retired Savage. I could have lived with that finish had they not done that bullshit where the Warrior took like 25 top rope elbows and then kicked out and then talked to the heavens and the gods while Gorilla Monsoon is trying to narrate what the Ultimate Warrior is going through. And even at my young age, I didn't like it. So I'm going Hogan Warrior on that one just because, I mean, just the match was better, and it showed that when the fans are, into two stars, much like Hogan and Rock at WrestleMania 18, you don't really have to be that good in the ring. You just gotta, get through it. Hogan and Andre is another good example of that. So yeah, I'm going WrestleMania 6. Martin Can, thank you for the super chat as well. Always remember Batista in tears doing his tribute to Eddie on SmackDown. Yeah, always stands out to me because they were right on the cusp of their feud, and they were working together. So Batista and they were on the same brand, and Batista behind the scenes was probably developing a pretty close relationship with Eddie. It tore him up. That was really sad. Didn't he put his belt on the car, right? Didn't he do something like that? That's tough to watch, man. A couple of weeks back on the stream, I actually went behind me. I pulled out the chair. Back in one of these DVDs here, I actually have both tribute shows recorded on a DVD from 2005 from Monday Night Raw and SmackDown, all in their entirety. One show per DVD, perfect quality and everything. So I actually got those recorded and saved them because, thought I might want to look back at them one day. Still haven't, but I do remember the Batista tribute. Mr. Anything for Salinas. Thank you for the $5. Wow, haven't seen Good Mike Work in a minute. How you been, Greg Morgan? I've been great. How have you been? How come you haven't been here? What's up with that? Well, thanks for being here, though. We're doing great. We're still plugging along here on the channel. And Zane G, appreciate the buck. Let's get back into what we need to get into here. By the way, can you guys do me a favor? Get those likes up for me. I would appreciate it. I'd like to get up to 100 or 200 likes on this video if we could. And like I said, we're just getting started here, man, because we got wrestling news to get into. And the top of the list, even though we've been streaming for 20 minutes and we haven't talked about it yet, is Zelina Vega. Zelina Vega has been let go by WWE. She was featured endeavored on Friday. Now, this was really interesting because of the timing of it. This was prior to SmackDown, and it was also 10 minutes after Zelina had sent out a tweet saying, "I support unionization." No shit. 10 minutes later, WWE tweets out that the WWE has come to terms on the release of Zelina Vega, which immediately got the fans assuming that she tweeted that and got fired for it. I don't really think it happens that quickly. I'm sure that she was already made aware of the release or knew about it, or maybe even possibly manipulated the situation herself to get released. I think this is clearly, from what we've read from all reports, this is due to WWE's new policy on their third-party platforms like Twitch specifically, and Zelina Vega is very, very popular on Twitch, and she's developed a good fan base and a good following, and she actually makes more money doing Twitch than WWE. And there were a lot of wrestlers understandably upset about WWE's new policy. We talked about it here on the channel in a couple of podcasts when the news was breaking about this type of stuff. And it's a very tough thing to swallow, especially for us to hear shit like this and be like, God, this fucking company, man, the way they just have to just nickel and dime you to death and take pieces of you and take a piece of your pie and things that you've worked for. And it's bullshit. I mean, it's absolute bullshit. So wrestlers were understandably mad. Some have complied with the new policy. Others have just straight up shut their Twitch channels down. And others seemingly refused to do anything and got themselves released for it. Now, there's kind of conflicting reports here on her release. Some are saying that, it was maybe WWE's way of sending an example, saying, hey, if you don't comply, we will release you for this. But at the same time, if I was Zelina, I would be thrilled to be away from that hell of a company, especially one that wants to control you so bad. And now that you've just been straight up released, all you got to do is sit out your 90-day and you're golden. Fuck yeah. I think a lot of people, and rightfully so, came out and supported Zelina Vega hard after this. She's kind of been viewed as a hero, and a lot of people have sympathy for her. Oh, this fucking company, how can they do that? I don't think she's thinking of it like this. She released a statement on Twitter, thanking WWE and appreciating her time there. She was even streaming on her Twitch on Friday night, receiving an outpouring of support. And I don't really think that this is something that, even though she's probably somewhat disappointed that her time in WWE didn't work out the way she hoped, to be away from them and away from that control is probably a very liberating feeling and gives her this freedom of saying, wow, I can do whatever the fuck I want, and I can keep my Twitch channel because she's making a ton of money off of that. And I'm happy that she's gone just to be away from the control, but at the same time, I'm surprised that WWE is willing to go to these lengths, when this company is just making so much money, and to take away from their side hustle, I understand, the earlier reports of, okay, maybe WWE doesn't want them to use their character names, their ring names. It's WWE's intellectual property. You cannot use that to help yourself make money on the side, whatever. That I can almost be okay with, and I can understand, but when it comes to saying we're going to take control, you either turn your Twitch channel over to us or you can't do it at all. Paige, and others have been understandably upset. Some wrestlers, including Xavier Woods and AJ Styles, even met with Vince McMahon to attempt to change his mind, and he would not. So they're playing hardball here, which to me is just so stupid for a company that seems so concerned about its public image. They look like the biggest assholes in the world for what they're doing. So, with the Zelina Vega release, I don't know if WWE thinks that they're intimidating other wrestlers. If I was a wrestler that had a good following on Twitch and I was making almost as much or more than I was making in my WWE contract, I'd want to get fired. And maybe Zelina has been trying to do that. She's been tweeting out some things. She's clearly unhappy. Her and Aleister Black both spoke on their streams about their displeasure with the situation. She's tweeted a couple of cryptic things. I feel like Paige is also trying to get herself fired. And she's like, I'm not shutting my shit down. This is my outlet. You assholes are not taking this away from me. And it just, every time something like this happens, it's just going to bring up this debate and this talk about these Twitch channels and WWE, now launching their own Twitch platform and them just wanting to just suck every goddamn nickel that they can out of everything. It just does not paint them in a very good light. And WWE is viewed as the heels in this situation. Zelina had an outpouring of support. Like I said, fans were, backing her up. And she's away from that shit now. And it makes me wonder about the future of Aleister Black. There has been talk that he did request to go back to NXT and he was denied. And he's clearly not any happier than Zelina is about these new Twitch policies because, he also is a streamer and he does this kind of stuff too. So I'm almost in a way hoping that he's kind of behind her and they let him go as well. Because I think both could be super useful in AEW. Zelina would be just what that women's division needs to spice it up a little bit. She could also go back to Impact. She's got some history there. But Aleister Black, ever since I first laid eyes on the dude, I thought he was money. I saw him live at TakeOver in 2018, and just to see him in person, I'm like, my God, this guy could be a world champion. Comes to the main roster, does jack dick. So, let him go to AEW and kick some ass over there. My God, I would love to see him there. So I almost hope just for his sake and his career's sake, because now WWE's got to stick up their ass about this Twitch stuff. You think they're going to push this guy? They already haven't done anything with him at all. So do you think now all of a sudden he's going to be challenging for world titles? Fuck no. Release him too. Because he can continue to make money off of his Twitch and his streaming, and he can have a job tomorrow. Zelina and Aleister can have a job in the business pretty much anytime they want. They will never go jobless. So it's almost better for them to be gone from WWE at this point. And it makes you wonder about Aleister Black and what his position now is in the company and where he stands and how all this is going to shake out and what's going to happen with him. And if I was him, I'd just ask for my release. I'm going to go be with my wife. I'd love for them just to kind of trim some of their fat that clearly doesn't want to be there and clearly that they're not going to push anyway. So get rid of Aleister Black, get rid of Lana, let them go somewhere else and be useful to somebody. Maybe not Lana, but it would be cool to see Lana and Miro in AEW, I suppose. But Aleister Black, imagine him there. My God. Imagine the matches he could have with some of those guys. I'd be totally into that. So, I don't know. It's a shitty situation, and just makes you shake your head that WWE does this. And I'm glad that AEW doesn't appear that they're going to adopt these policies. It appears that they're going to let the wrestlers be themselves. And, I don't have any firsthand knowledge of the situation. I have not read wrestlers' contracts or anything like that. But it amazes me that they're able to do this, is basically what I'm saying, especially with the classification of wrestlers being independent contractors. How the fuck this is legal, I have no idea. But it must be, because WWE's got, they've got shark lawyers, and they will fight tooth and nail, and they usually always win. They very rarely come up short in any sort of litigation process. But best of luck to Zelina Vega. I'm happy for her. I guess we should be calling her, what's her name? Thea Trinidad, I think, something like that. So I'm hoping she'll be referred to as that from now on. I'm not on Twitch, but if you guys are, wish her the best from the channel. And I hope she turns up in the next 90 days on another wrestling promotion, or she just continues to have her fun on Twitch and make her money, because that is something that you can be proud of and something that you've created and developed on your own. And to create a fan base like that, that's something to be proud of. Even a small channel like ours with, 30-something thousand subscribers is still, it's it's something to be proud of. You got all these people to come watch you. So, for somebody else to come and say, oh, we're going to take a cut of that now, fuck you. So best of luck, Zelina Vega. I'm glad you're out from underneath that rock, and we wish you well. I also want to talk about Little Miss Bliss. Alexa Bliss got engaged last night. I think I was one of the first people to see this because I stay up all night, and I happened to come across the tweet that she sent out about 8 or 9 minutes after she was engaged, or after the tweet was sent, and she said it was the best night of her life. And there's a picture of the guy's name. I think he's Ryan Cabrera. He's a musician or something, and he's kneeling down and proposing to her. And I kind of laughed. I'm like, all right, WWE's probably going to let this slide, but Alexa, whatever you do, don't cut your hair without asking, because she's currently involved in this storyline with the Fiend and all of that. And to see this human side of her get engaged, I don't know if that's something WWE would want out there, because they try to control everybody's lives, but they shouldn't be able to. Hope the happy couple. I wish them well. Good for Alexa Bliss. And sorry for, trust me, as somebody that's on Twitter and gets a lot of replies from wrestling fans with Alexa Bliss profile pictures, there might be some sad young boys out there, but hey, that's just life. We wish her the best here on the channel, and I hope they live a long, happy life together. Now that she's engaged and we got marriage coming up, we might have some little blisses being popped out of her in the next couple of years. We'll see, and congrats to them. And also, I'm going to talk about this here a little bit later on, but what a bummer of a debut for Chelsea Green on Friday night. Girl showed up in a fatal four-way, kind of as like a surprise entrant, did absolutely nothing. The match was like 3.5 minutes. She didn't even win, and she broke her wrist in the match and has now got to get it operated on or whatever. So that sucks. Best of luck to Chelsea Green. That was just a heartbreaking situation, and none of it was good. The match wasn't good. Her debut wasn't good, and then she got injured. Talk about salt in the wound. But we'll probably touch on that again when we get into SmackDown here at the end. Oh, good. Thanks for continuing to hit that like button. Keep doing it. Hit it 100 times. All right, we're going to get into the Wednesday Night Wars first. I want to start with AEW. And like I said, we're not going to go through match by match, bit by bit, segment by segment. We're going to gloss over this, talk about some of the key points. And I really want to talk a lot about Kenny Omega and Jon Moxley on December 2nd coming up. But before we do that, let me catch up the super chats. Okay, there's just one. I was thinking there was like a bunch. Okay, good. Chris, what's up, dude? Appreciate 5 more from you. If Alistair gets fired and goes to AEW, I feel like he would be a good tag partner with Darby Allin because of their gimmicks, and then he can go single. Maybe that would be a way to introduce him. I don't know if I want to see Alistair get locked into another tag team. He and Darby match a hell of a lot better than Alistair and Ricochet did, but I think Alistair is money on his own and is, should be a world title contender upon entering the door. I think he's that good. But I think it would be a good way to maybe introduce him, maybe do a run-in to help Darby, or Darby is the one who comes in the ring and introduces him on the mic. I've brought a friend to AEW. We've been talking behind the scenes, in the past year or so, gotten to know each other a little bit, and we always said if the opportunity came to work together, that we would. And maybe, Darby is in the middle of feuding with 2 guys and he needs some backup, and he brings out Aleister Black, and then maybe they have an initial tag together, and then Aleister goes on his own. I would love that, because a guy like Alistair would feel like the big deal that he is in AEW or in WWE. He's just lost in the shuffle, surrounded by all the goddamn talent they have. So I would love to see Alistair in AEW. His time on the main roster has been nothing but a disappointment to me, and he was one of my favorite NXT champions of all time. Absolutely loved him. Just great gimmick, great look, great presentation, awesome in the ring. Such a shame. Anyway, this past week's Dynamite was very good. Both shows were very good. I'm going to give the nod to AEW, though, for having the better show. They did win in the ratings also. AEW scored 764,000 viewers to NXT's 632. So another victory for Dynamite, and rightfully so. It was their, it was the fallout show from the pay-per-view. And there was a lot to do, and there was a lot of surprises, and there was a couple of segments in typical Dynamite fashion that were completely all over the place and overbooked to shit, but sometimes that's the fun of it. And we had, the MJF induction and all this good stuff. So I thought Dynamite was the better show, just by a hair, because NXT really delivered for me as well. I also want to mention earlier on in the day, on Wednesday, Tony Khan had tweeted out something that for some reason just got a ton of hate from the fans. So I went to go look at like what the big deal was, because I think I saw the criticism, but didn't see the tweet. And I'm reading Twitter. I'm like, what the fuck are the fans mad about Tony Khan? So I went and found the tweet. This is what he tweeted. This was the unforgivable tweet that gave him so much heat for some reason, and I'm baffled to figure out why. Prior to Dynamite, he tweets out, "Tonight, we have a great lineup for AEW Dynamite live on TNT at 8 p.m. For the rest of 2020, AEW will keep delivering great matches on Wednesday nights, plus there are massive surprises ahead. Please join us on TNT tonight. The balance of power in wrestling will shift tonight." So I guess the fans' problem with this is that he teased something and made it sound like it's going to be huge, and then what we got with Shaq and Pac wasn't as big as what he was making it. I didn't really see that. I didn't see any misleading happening in that tweet. I saw enthusiasm in that tweet. I mean, what would you rather have? Would you rather have a billionaire who owns a wrestling company that doesn't know shit about wrestling, doesn't care about wrestling, is only using it as a way to profit or make money? Wouldn't you rather have somebody like Tony Khan who's involved, who likes wrestling, who wants to be a part of it, who's heavily involved in the creative aspect and the production aspect of things, is enthusiastic about the future, has a good attitude, wants to provide a great workplace for wrestlers? Isn't this so much better than having somebody like Ted Turner or a fucking Jim Herd in charge or some idiot that doesn't know shit about anything? This is a guy that is just passionate about his brand and about his product and is trying to get it over and trying to plug it. That's it. That's all I saw this as. And when it comes to, blowing smoke up our ass or buzzwords or shit like that, nobody, hammers shit into your head harder than WWE with some of the nonsense they tweet at you, touting this and that. This just seemed like a really excited, enthusiastic tweet from an owner of a wrestling company that has a big show planned. That was it. I don't understand why fans just have to spew so much hate when this was such an innocent tweet. I saw somebody say, well, maybe if he would have said the balance of power in AEW will shift instead of wrestling. I'm like, that even fucking matter? That's just the biggest nitpick I've ever heard. So I don't understand why debates like this come. I think it just comes from the AEW cult versus the non-AEW cult. These fans start getting together. It's just like politics. They start fighting with each other, and then they forget what the real fucking issues are. So I think it came from, mostly the people that just like to shit on AEW for some reason. And speaking of those people, I guarantee you they're going to do it with the upcoming match that is planned. The big news on Dynamite that I wanted to talk about first here is that Jon Moxley, of course, is going to be defending the AEW title next against Kenny Omega because he won the tournament. But they're not waiting until Revolution in February or the beginning of the year or maybe an end of year show or pay-per-view or anything like that. They're busting this out on December 2nd. So in just a couple of weeks, I believe it's 2 weeks from this Wednesday, I believe, will be Moxley and Omega for the title on Dynamite. That was a surprising announcement, but I love it. I fucking love it, man. And I was talking about Kenny and Moxley, and I guess I was kind of mistaken prior to the tournament. I was I wanted to predict Hangman to win the tournament because I felt like we already got Moxley and Omega, and I don't know why in my head I thought they wrestled twice. They only wrestled once in that crazy unsanctioned match that was bloody and caused all sorts of problems. In my head, there was more than one match, but I think I was confusing it with an angle or a segment or maybe even on Moxley's debut. So it was only one match. So coming back now a year later and doing it again, and this time doing it in a wrestling match, and as Kenny said in his promo on Dynamite, that was a non-sanctioned match. In one-on-one matches in the ring, we are 0-0. And, a lot of people have been wondering who is the person going to be to take the title off of Moxley. Kenny Omega, upon coming in, we all thought was going to be the cornerstone, the centerpiece, the crown jewel of the company. It didn't really go that way for him. It took him a while to get there. I'm liking this new Kenny, approaching cleaner level Kenny, the new presentation, the new entrance, kind of the new attitude. I am ready. I'm ready for Kenny. I don't think if this match would have been made 8 months ago, I would have been ready to see this yet. But now I think it's perfect, and a lot of people are surprised at the date, and a lot of people have have been speculating as to why it's happening on December 2nd, why this soon. And Wrestle Kingdom is a big part of that because Jon Moxley is still the United States champion. At some point, he's got to go to Japan and drop the belt. There is some travel being allowed now. I think there's some quarantine involved if you go back and forth or whatever, but he is able to get there. All signs are pointing to him showing up and being at Wrestle Kingdom to defend the title, possibly against Kenta, which would be awesome. But he's had that title forever. He's got to go over there and drop it. So a lot of fans brought up that fact. Hey, if he's going to work Wrestle Kingdom, they might not want him to be AEW champion. I don't think it's a matter of being champion and being on that show. I think it's a matter of being champion and losing on that show. Because correct me if I'm wrong, didn't Jericho take the title with him last year? I think he had the title with him, the AEW title with him in his match, I think. So I don't think it's a matter of Moxley being there with the title. I don't think they care about that. But I don't think they want their champion going over there and losing a match clean to somebody. You know what I mean? So I think that's probably why there's a really good chance Omega will take the title on December 2nd. And I would love to see it. You know, I kind of thought maybe this would be the setup match and then they do another one on pay-per-view and Kenny would win there. But I think it might happen on the 2nd. And I'm ready to see that. Totally. I'm totally on the Kenny bandwagon. I want to see if anybody's going to beat Moxley, it should be, you know, maybe a non-WWE guy, because you heard the fans who like to criticize, oh, AEW's nothing but WWE rejects and shit like that, which I think is an incorrect point, but they still say it because it sounds good. So for those very same people that say all AEW does is push ex-WWE guys, I don't want to hear anybody say that Kenny Omega is not a big enough star to beat Jon Moxley. He absolutely most certainly is. He's more than capable. He's one of the best wrestlers in the world. His resume in Japan alone proves that. And I think him and Moxley could make some history here. So I'm into it. I think maybe I'm a little bit more excited than most, but I've kind of been ready for Omega as champion in AEW ever since AEW was announced. You know, so I've kind of been waiting for this. Moxley needs to drop it to somebody credible. He's had a great run. He's had a great year despite the pandemic. You know, he was number one on the PWI 500. He had a phenomenal run, and he's added, him and Jericho both have added a lot of credibility to that very young title. Now when you switch it and put it on somebody like Kenny, and from here you can go to guys like MJF and Cody and have a great time with the title. And I think Kenny would be the perfect guy to kind of kick things off. So I'm rooting for him on December 2nd. I actually hope that we see a major title change, and that will be their first, correct? That will be AEW's first title change on their flagship show. I don't know how many world title changes we've seen on Raw in history, but we've seen a pretty good amount. We might see one tomorrow. So they should have one on their own. And I'm kind of hoping for that on the 2nd. But let me know your... Can you call me after the stream? Yeah. Slide into my DMs. Let me know what you guys think about that. If you guys think I'm right about this Kenny Omega thing and Mox is likely going to drop the belt before heading to Wrestle Kingdom, or if it's just going to be a match that's going to end in a DQ and set up a pay-per-view match for later on down the road. I don't know. But those were the two big things I wanted to talk about right off the bat before we got into Dynamite results. I did like the opening match between Brian Cage and Matt Sydal because I like the finish. Matt Sydal just went, I guess he was going for a neck breaker, but Cage caught him in perfect like standing suplex position. Kind of a unique finish. I don't think I've really ever seen that before. Right into position for his finisher, or whatever the hell the name of that is, and it gets the pin there. That was the opening match. I thought it was pretty good. After that, we got the super convoluted promo with Cody Rhodes. Cody Rhodes comes out. He, of course, had the TNT Championship match against Darby Allin at Full Gear. Comes out, congratulates Darby. I think Darby's up in the audience or some shit like that. He goes on to say a couple things, including being a giant killer, I think. He even mentioned that he wants another crack at MJF, and he's got some plans to, you know, go forward in the future and maybe come back and challenge for the TNT Championship another day. That's basically the gist of what I could get out of this promo. He's then interrupted by this mystery female. This mystery woman comes out, and oh my God, where has she been all of our lives? She is just a, what's it called? Chiseled out of granite. She's like Black Charlotte. Her name is Jade Cargill. And according to Sean Ross Sapp, she has had a tryout in WWE before. I would like to know what it is about her that they thought was unhireable. Even if she can't work a lick, when has that stopped them from doing anything? Think about some of the male wrestlers that they pushed in the past that couldn't wrestle their way out of a wet fucking paper bag. So how in the hell WWE allowed this woman to slip through their fingers? I have no idea. She looked like a beast. And she apparently has signed a multi-year deal with AEW. Jade Cargill is her name. So she comes out and she starts talking on the mic to Cody. And you don't even, it's kind of confusing why she's even there. I don't know if I'm bringing a new woman into the fold, if this is how I'm debuting her, unless she's going to be backing up Shaq or whatever. But she says there's, she said, you said you're a giant killer and there's nothing giant about you. And if you want to keep running your mouth, maybe you'll wake up a real giant. I happen to know a real giant that could show up here, and his name is Shaq. So they used her, this brand new newcomer who we've never seen before, to come on TV to announce a future appearance of Shaq down the road, and we're going to get Cody versus Shaq? That's bizarre. Now, it's not like, this is not, I think maybe this is where a little bit of the fans' anger came from with Tony Khan. Oh, you had this big tweet and all it was Shaq or whatever. And they're kind of right about that. I just think the anger and the hate was a little bit over the top. But Shaq is not like a big coup. Shaq is not like some huge get for the company. Shaq works for TNT. He's on the NBA on TNT set, isn't he? So it's probably more cross-promotion than anything else, unlike in WWE where they can just get athletes and celebrities left and right. So Shaq is coming in. He's been in WWE. He's been in WCW. He's already been in AEW. I think they had Jericho on like the NBA show, and they were screwing around, wrestling around or whatever. So Shaq's a fun-loving guy. He always likes wrestling, and I guess he's coming in now. And of all the times we've heard about possible matches with him in the big show at WrestleMania, and any match that Shaq could actually potentially officially compete in, the last guy on my radar was Cody Rhodes. Cody Rhodes and Shaq, what is that match going to look like? When is it going to happen? When are they going to do it? And what the hell does all this mean? So we'll have to monitor that with Shaquille O'Neal when he finally turns up. And if Jade is going to be backing him up, I guess she's going to be serving as maybe his valet or his spokesperson. Because she cut a pretty decent promo. She could talk a little bit, and she can talk a lot better than Shaq, to be honest. So he might need a mouthpiece. She's just an odd choice, but I think the two of them might look pretty badass together. Because, like I said, she's a big girl and strong. My God, she just muscles, and my God, I could not believe how good she looked. So anyway, after she's talking smack to Cody, this was probably the best part of the whole promo. Brandy comes out. She's the chief brandy officer, and she gets on the mic. And she's all fired up, and she gets right in Jade's face, and she's just going on and on. She's like, oh, hell no, pulling the earrings off and going full on, I'm gonna whip your ass. She told Jade to take her ratchet trifling ass up off her stage. And then she calls her a heifer and tells her to get her bitch ass out of here. And then as she's walking away, Jade then slaps her on the ass. There's kind of like a pull apart. Jerry Lynn and some of the other officials come out to kind of separate them a little bit. And as all this is going on, as if this shit can't be more convoluted enough, from behind in the ring, Brian Cage and Ricky Starks jump Cody. So Cody starts getting his ass kicked by them, but then Darby Allin's music hits, and he starts coming down through the crowd and gets in the ring to save Cody. Will Hobbs makes an appearance as well. It was just a lot happening here, and that's part of what, part of us is like, God, AEW, they really, really overbooked this, and yes, they did, but at the same time, I guess I can appreciate them doing things a little bit differently than WWE would. Maybe some of us are just so programmed to being used to what WWE does in situations like this, and if this was them, I think they would make the announcement of Shaq kind of like the punchline. And then the camera would zoom in on Cody's face, and he's like, whoa, Shaq. And then they go to commercial, instead of having 9 things happen after that. And I think that's the difference between AEW and WWE is sometimes, they can overbook things to where it's not so bad it's good type of thing. It's more just like fun. It's like, oh my God, what are they going to hit us with next? I don't think they needed Cage and Starks out there. I don't think you needed the Darby Allin stuff. I thought the Brandy stuff was already over the top, and all you really needed was Cody coming out there cutting his promo. You introduce the newcomer. She announces Shaq, sets the stage and plants the seed for a potential match in the future, and that's all you need to do. But they went 18 steps past that, and it gets a little bit funny sometimes when they go so over the top with some of their booking in these segments. But this thing was all over the place, but it was still fun, and all I can think of is what the hell is a Shaq and Cody Rhodes match going to look like in the ring? What the hell is it going to look like? It's going to look weird, I think. That's for sure. Anyway, so that was a very fun part of AEW, and really excited to see Jade and what she does beyond her association with Shaq. Can she wrestle? And if she can't, can you teach her and get her real good? Because like I said, she's got the look. You know, she's got that, you know, it's like WWE, you know, bringing in guys like Batista and stuff just because they're jacked and they look amazing and they look like $1,000,000. Throw them in the ring, hope that they can wrestle. For all we know, she might be awesome. But when I heard the story of her getting a tryout with WWE, how the hell did they not sign her to a developmental deal? Unless they did and she was like, oh, hell no. But she's in AEW now, and she'll stand out a lot more in AEW than she would in WWE, because WWE has got a lot of, you know, very strong, very large women there, like Rhea Ripley, like Raquel Gonzalez, and others. So, you know, she'll be more of a standout, I think, in AEW. We'll keep our eye on her and see how she does. But pretty impressive debut. I really enjoyed, for some reason, the bloody encounter, the brawl. I think it was Falls Count Anywhere match. I think is that what it was, between Dustin and QT, or the Nightmare family, against Butcher and the Blade. This has all been built up on TV recently because, like, the bunny turned on QT and broke his heart and all that shit. So now we've got this big bloody brawl. And I love that AEW just busts out a ridiculous amount of blood in a mid-card Dynamite match. Hilarious. And Blade lived up to his name, maybe blading a little bit too much, bladed his ass off. So did QT. Blades was a crimson mask. QT was all busted up as well. QT kind of looked like a Bubba. He was dressed like Bubba Ray Dudley, sort of. They did the big crash box bump, which I'm not a fan of, like those big crash pads that are surrounded by like a balsa wood box or whatever. WWE does this spot all the time, and it's just kind of done too much, and I don't really like it because it doesn't really look that devastating or that realistic when you just land on a giant pillow. But Dustin nailed the Butcher off a scaffolding, and they fell through that. Then in the ring, Bunny gets knocked off the apron, I believe, by the Blade. She goes through the table, and QT hits a cutter on a very bloody Blade for the win. So that match was 10 times more fun than I expected it to be, and I liked that AEW just really made it a violent, bloody brawl right there on worldwide cable for all to see. But pretty fun match there. I loved the MJF induction. That was up next. So MJF, of course, beat Chris Jericho at Full Gear, earning himself a spot in the Inner Circle. So tonight, or on Wednesday night, they were going to induct MJF. So he comes out there with all the Inner Circle. Sammy is missing. Sammy's MIA, I guess, because of the Matt Hardy match. But Santana and Ortiz and Hager are out there. They bring out MJF. He's got some hilarious quotes. He gets on the mic and he says, I've been in this industry for 5 long years, which just got a huge chuckle out of me because 5 long years is no time at all. And he said when he started out, his dad gave him just a small loan of $1 million. Poor guy. I can't believe he made it. He then goes on to quote Drake. He writes a poem for everybody, but he just recites some lyrics in a Drake song. He gets called out for that. Ortiz is hilarious during all of this because he fucking hates MJF. Santana is a little bit like lukewarm to him. He's not as animated as Ortiz is. And Hager just spends most of his time staring over at Wardlow. So the Inner Circle is still not into it, and I've been calling for a heel turn. I said this in my Full Gear predictions, that I think something like the Inner Circle turning on Jericho and aligning themselves and anointing MJF as their new leader, kind of like how the Nation did with The Rock, might be in the future, because I feel like Jericho might have run his course as a heel, and the Inner Circle might want to have a short babyface run, before his time in the ring finally ends. This could be a perfect way to do that. Have them kick him out of the Inner Circle. MJF can carry on the name of the Inner Circle. Jericho can then work as a babyface. I still think there's a very likely scenario of that happening. It's just, maybe AEW's taken longer to get there, because the Inner Circle members are still not accepting MJF. And what I thought was going to happen is that the Inner Circle guys they're fronting, they're making it seem like they don't want him there, but it's just a big ruse to turn on Jericho in the end. That's kind of where I thought something like this was going to go. But I think now during the promo, Jericho, as everybody's getting upset with him, he's like, all right, guys, all right, hold on. I'll take responsibility. It's on me. If anything goes sideways, it's on me. So the fact that he planted that seed, once something does go sideways, the Inner Circle will be taking advantage of Jericho saying that and say, hey, you said it was on you, so now we're holding you accountable. So I think some things are going to happen in the future that's going to lessen the Inner Circle's confidence in Jericho and maybe strengthen their confidence in MJF and eventually still lead to some sort of a turn in the end. That's what I think. Because they're teasing the hilarious shit between Wardlow and Hager, which I love. MJF also says it's not only just about his induction in the Inner Circle. It was also recently Chris Jericho's birthday. He turned 50 years old. He's no longer in that key demographic, and MJF makes everybody sing happy birthday, and Ortiz is hilarious. He's like barely singing, and he then gives everybody, I guess as a birthday present to Jericho, he gives everybody tickets to Vegas. All of the Inner Circle members are heading off to Vegas. I think that's going to be coming up. Some footage of that will be on this week's Dynamite. They are off to Vegas for fun and adventure. There's been more than one big group photo that's been floating around social media. One prior to Vegas and then one from like a rooftop bar in Vegas. And in each group photo, you've got Hager and Wardlow just eyeballing each other. It's hilarious. The fact that how much of a story these pictures can show you. And the Wardlow and Hager stuff, I cannot get enough of that. So I'm excited to see what they do. I think it should be some fun. It's probably not going to be, it might, but it's probably not going to be as elaborate as the Le Dinner Debonair. But I have a feeling there's going to be shenanigans and there's going to be some fun shit being seen on Dynamite this week if they show any footage of this Vegas trip, especially with Ortiz. I think they're being able, with Proud and Powerful now, I'd like to see them win the tag team titles at some point, but in the meantime, they're also kind of doing this with the Lucha Brothers as well, kind of developing their own personalities. We're seeing that in WWE with the Usos. 6 months ago, you didn't know who was who, and now Jay is a main eventer. So, I can kind of see the fact that Santana and Ortiz don't seem to be on the same page with the MJF stuff. I like that because you can kind of, you can kind of single out their personalities and see how they are like that. And Ortiz is just with his facial expressions, his crazy whack hair. I love him. He looks like a crackhead to me, and he's so entertaining, and I just love everything about the guy. So the more Ortiz, please, is what I'm saying. AEW is one of my favorite dudes there. Sean Spears got a victory over Scorpio Sky 1-on-1. Tully Blanchard had some shenanigans going on. He had 2 slugs, one of which he tossed right to Scorpio Sky kind of as a decoy, just enough to distract the referee while he tosses another one in to Sean Spears, who pops Scorpio Sky with it. Scorpio sells it like $1 million. He goes down, and Spears gets the win, and he's on a pretty big winning streak there. So, maybe they're going to do something with Spears after all, based on that he's gotten some pretty quality wins on TV lately. And remember a few months back, they hinted that he was going to get a tag team partner, and they just dropped it. So now it looks like he's back on to his winning ways, and he's another guy I wouldn't sleep on in terms of like a future challenger for Darby. I don't know where he stands in the rankings, but I think his win-loss is pretty solid. So he's put on some muscle mass too. He's a little bit bigger, so he can really probably toss around and do some pretty big damage to Darby if they ever get in the ring. We'll see. Pretty decent women's match. Tay Conti defeating Red Velvet. I kind of like that. And then the main event was what it was all about. It was Penta and Rey Fenix. They're doing this match again from the tournament a couple of weeks ago. And I don't know, where do you guys think this one holds up to the tournament match? I think this one might have been even a hair better and maybe just a touch more brutal. And what was really interesting about this is both guys essentially were unmasked. That was really surprising. The fact that I think it was Phoenix was pretty much had his mask torn and ripped off first, and he came back and got a little bit of revenge on Penta later on, and I pretty much got a good look at both of their faces now, and there's no mystery there. So that was really surprising that they went that far with the masking and the unmasking. It makes you wonder if they're going to fully come off at some point in the future and maybe, do something from a singles perspective here. Probably the most brutal part of the whole match was the package pile driver on the apron, followed by a destroyer, like 5 seconds later, which I don't even know how his neck doesn't look like a question mark at this point. The unmasking was happening during all of that, and they were, instead of trying to like pull him off, they were almost like tearing him off. And I love the part where they're both on the mat and they've got a hold of each other's masks. It's kind of like when you're, after you have a long match and both guys are on their knees and they're just exchanging, right hands to the face. It was kind of like that, but as they were doing it, they both had a handful of each other's masks, and it was just a great looking spot. In the end, Penta hits another package pile driver on Phoenix in the ring for the win, and that's when Eddie Kingston comes out, gets on the mic, and kind of endorses Penta a little bit, even kicks Phoenix out of the ring, calls him dead weight, calls him a loser, really puts over Penta. And that's when some music starts, and we see the return of Pac. Pac is back, comes through the tunnel, and don't forget, prior to Pac leaving, he had just started the the Devil's Triangle or whatever the fuck it was with the Lucha Brothers, remember? So he has a claim to these guys as well, and you almost wonder if they're going to be making a split now, and we're going to have like an Eddie and Penta and Pac and Phoenix tag match or feud or something like that. He comes out, says that Eddie has made a big mistake. He calls him a scumbag, and there's kind of like a pull-apart brawl between the two, and I'm surprised that Pac is going to come back and actually work with Kingston, but that is going to be pretty fun because I think Pac is we saw that in WWE. He's very underrated on the mic. I like his demeanor. I like his intensity. I love his, kind of no-nonsense attitude. He contrasts a little bit in that way with Eddie. They are, even though they're both good on the mic, they're both vastly different as well. And I think that might make for a fun little feuder program, especially if you can incorporate Penta and Phoenix into this and get them on opposite sides. So that should be fun. Pac is going to do huge wonders for them. He's another guy that now that he's back, whenever, this gets resolved and settled with Eddie and whatever his feud or program is after this, I hope it involves gold, because, Pac is another guy that I think, there's no reason why he couldn't be the guy in the future to beat Kenny Omega for the title if Kenny beats Moxley, you know what I mean? But at the very minimum, TNT champion or something like that. Imagine Pac and Darby. Holy shit. So he's there now. He's back, and that's just going to do wonders for them. He's been a big void, being gone all this time since COVID started. So we're all big Pac fans, most of us anyway. And to me, there's no reason why this guy shouldn't be upper echelon of contenders in AEW. So very happy to see him back. That was an awesome surprise. Nice little cherry on top on a very good show. And hopefully Pac has got gold in his future. I'm very, very happy he's back. Anyway, so yeah, AEW Dynamite was solid on Wednesday. I thought they did a good job following up Full Gear, and it leaves a lot of questions for the future, and I'm really eyeballing that December 2nd match with Moxley and Omega. I think that might be it for old Mox, and I actually really hope that it is. Anyway, let's move on to NXT. Like I said, they drew 632,000 viewers in their ratings, falling short to AEW this week, but the show opened up with a massive upset, which was a combination of heartwarming and funny and head-scratching, and very little about this made me upset in any way. Good on NXT for just doing something crazy. A lot of people say that NXT sometimes, it just feels a little bit flat, same show kind of every week. If they don't have anything really good going on, you see some pretty good wrestling, but you don't see the variety, and the ups and downs of roller coaster, the roller coaster ride that wrestling can take you on, like we see on Dynamite a lot of weeks. So the fact that they come out here and opened up like this really shocked the hell out of me. I was watching Dynamite live. My plan was to watch NXT after, but I wish I would have watched this live. I had to see on Twitter that we had a title change. I'm like, holy shit, and then I had to go back and watch it after the fact. So Johnny Gargano opens up the show. He's got his own wheel. He's very into wheels now because it worked out for him at Halloween Havoc, winning the North American title. Now, I also didn't know this about him. I remember his previous North American title run was short, but I had no idea he dropped it in his first defense. So that's kind of the theme here. Now he's got the wheel. He even looks like he rigs the wheel to land on Leon Ruff on purpose, right in between, I think, Damian Priest and Tommaso Ciampa. So he spun the wheel. It lands on Leon Ruff. He's like, oh my God, Leon Ruff, I'm going to give him a North American title match. Leon comes out, and they have the match. And we see Damian Priest. He's in the audience, kind of messing with Johnny a little bit, and it's enough to cause enough of a distraction for Johnny that he just gets caught quickly with kind of like a crucifix pin. Ruff rolls him up, pins his shoulders down, 1, 2, 3, and Johnny Gargano, in his very first title defense again, drops the North American title. The shot, I think the image of the week was the referee presenting the belt to Leon Ruff, and he's just like, for reals? It was almost like, it wasn't the same thing, but it kind of reminded me of Kevin Owens when Triple H came in and helped him win the Universal title back in 2016. And just a look of pure surprise and shock was enough to get the fans talking online that Owens wasn't filled in. He wasn't smartened up to the finish. And they literally surprised him in the middle of the ring like that. that wasn't the case, but his reaction made you believe it. And to see Ruff's face just like looking at the referee like, are you shitting me? And then he goes up on the ramp and celebrates with the title, and he's so goddamn skinny. Damian Priest comes out to congratulate him. He tries to put the belt around his waist, and as soon as he lets go, it just falls down to the ground, and he's celebrating. Hilarious. Apparently, everybody loves Leon Ruff. We've seen him a couple of times on NXT. He's a super talented kid, but he's little. What does he weigh? $120, $130 at the most? I mean, he is super small, but everybody just speaks highly of him. They say he works hard. He's a good kid. Everybody enjoys and likes and wants to work with him. And this might have been a little brief reward. Let's give you a cup of coffee with the North American title. The fact that this belt is bigger than he is doesn't make me think that this is going to be any sort of a long title defense. Or a long title reign. However, I would like to see him successfully defend it once. I would like to see him successfully defend it more times than Johnny, kind of thing. So like maybe have him, you know how like James Ellsworth was like escaping victories against AJ Styles somehow, you know, maybe have like, cause he can't, you got to be realistic here, even though we're real happy for Leon Ruff and I appreciated the surprise. He ain't holding that title for very long. I don't think 2 to 5 weeks max, I would say. So I think maybe you do a rematch right away with Gargano, but he survives and then drops the belt after that. Maybe back to Gargano. You know, maybe Gargano can be a 3-time North American title. And then if you wanted to really hot potato this thing, you could have Johnny win the belt back from Leon and then Damian win the belt back from Johnny, maybe again in Johnny's first title defense. That's a lot of hop, skipping, and jumping there with the title that I'm normally not a fan of. But maybe we can make an exception this time. And it might be funny to have Johnny Gargano have 3 separate North American title runs where each time he dropped it in his first defense. Not quite the Sasha Banks record, but talking point, you know, for his character, and definitely can give him a reason to be disgruntled and things like that. So it was also great, too, after the match, after the belt falls down and Leon Ruff, poor Ruff can't even put it on. He goes to the back and he gets this like standing ovation from the PC, you know, from PC kids. They're all clapping for him. Regal is there, and Damian Priest shows up and congratulates him, and he says, hey, he reaches in his pocket and gives him some car keys, and he goes, hey, Dodge Challenger, get out there and get out of here, because when Johnny Gargano comes back here, he's going to be pissed off and he's going to kick your ass. So take the car, get out of Dodge, goodbye. And Ruff just scurries off with the title to drive away as Johnny comes in all fucking mad. So Damian Priest and Gargano are going to continue their deal. Don't know if the title's going to be, maybe this was a way to finish off their deal without having to pass the title back and forth to them. I don't know. I think that they'll either finish up their deal without the title, Ruff will drop it to someone else, or Johnny will get it back and Priest will win it from him. Maybe is what I'm thinking. Either way, I appreciated the upset. I thought it was something cool and kind of like a why not type of thing. You know, what's wrong with getting a hardworking, well-liked kid? You know, a little rub. Nothing wrong with that at all. He certainly seemed proud. He posted a picture of his dad sleeping with the belt or whatever, which was pretty funny. So the kid seems elated to have this opportunity. And even if he drops it quickly, I still think it was a fun match and a fun segment on NXT. Santos Escobar defeated Jake Atlas to retain his cruiserweight title as well. So we had 2 title matches to kick off the show there. Mendoza and Wilde were heavily involved there, tossed out of the ring, or thrown out, I believe, at one point by the referee, and Santos wound up winning and retaining the title. So maybe the issue between those two is done. I kind of hope it is. I've been paying very little attention to that whole situation. The Shotzi promo was good because, of course, last week I didn't talk about this because we weren't up here for a standard podcast, but last week Candice ran over Shotzi's tank with like a Hummer and destroyed the tank. So we had a promo here from Shotzi. She's pissed and talked about not only was the tank was just more than a prop and a gimmick to her. It represented things. It represented the family that she had in the military. And I think Shotzi is somebody that's going to get like so much better as she goes. She's already really good. I really like her mic ability. I think she cuts really good promos, but sometimes she can almost like go overboard with a little bit. And I think all that stuff like will even out over time. And I think she'll also improve in the ring. And there's something about her whenever I see her, I just see like superstar. My only big concern is they don't move her to the main roster and then she becomes Ruby Riott, where she does nothing, because we felt the same way about Ruby. And there's something about her, you know, and I feel the same way about Shotzi, but WWE always fucks it up. So I think it's best for Shotzi to stay in NXT for as long as humanly possible before she even thinks about doing any more, because I think she's only going to get better, and I'm kind of intrigued now with the Shotzi and Candice stuff, and Shotzi's got some revenge to get on Candice LeRae, so we'll see where that goes. Another interesting storyline that's gotten more of my interest than I thought that it would is whatever's going on with Xia Li. Xia Li's been, having some very cryptic kind of interviews in recent weeks where she's desperate for a match. She needs to have a match. She needs to win. And nobody really knows why she's that desperate. I'll fight anybody. Put me in there with a fucking elephant. I don't care. I need to go in there and I need to win a match. It's critical. It's crucial that I win this, and nobody really understands what's going on. And we've got this guy, Boa, that's been showing up, like handing her letters in recent weeks as well. So now she's got a match with Raquel Gonzalez on Wednesday. Her music hits. She doesn't come out. Raquel is standing in the ring by herself. And instead, Boa comes out. And Raquel immediately kicks his ass. He starts talking to her. She just beats the shit out of him. And then the lights go out again, and we see a brand new character. A mystery man comes out. He's not masked or anything. He comes out, and then he delivers a letter to Boa. So I don't know what. I'm almost just intrigued because I have no idea what any of this means. And I think I just want to see where it goes, even if it's not that interesting. Some people said it might be some Yakuza shit or something. I don't know. But whatever Xia Li is wrapped up in, it seems dangerous, and they're bringing it into a storyline on NXT. So that whole situation, I think, is interesting, and we'll see. I also don't know with the relationship between Raquel Gonzalez and Dakota. It feels like they might be on their way to splitting them up or something, which I said a couple of weeks ago I'm not ready for. We had some more women in action. Candice LeRae, she's lucky Shotzi didn't run in there and whip her ass. She's taking on Toni Storm in this match. She beat Toni Storm. She got a little cheap pin, feet on the ropes, was able to hold her down, which is surprising because, Toni, I like Toni Storm because she stands out a little bit more because she's got some weight to her. She's got some power. She can mow through women, and that's why I was surprised that Candice was actually able to hold her down, little Candice, on the ropes like that. I thought Toni would be strong enough to kick out of that, but I like her because, when it comes to the blonde-haired, blue-eyed, wrestlers, sometimes it's hard for them to form identities. Toni Storm, I think she's got a little bit different look in the ring, and she's a little bit more powerful, and she's got a good, just a good in-ring attack, and I think that now that she's there, she should be a contender. Dropping this match here to Candice, I don't know, but I think at some point she should, be built up and be a title contender for sure. So I think the women's division has gotten a lot better now that Toni is there, now that Ember Moon is back, and Candice LeRae is getting on the map. So is Shotzi, and maybe things are starting to look better on the women's side of things. But they might also be losing somebody, which I'll talk about in just a minute when we get to the end of NXT here. We had Timothy Thatcher taking on Dexter Lumis again. Thatcher beat him because of all sorts of interference from Cameron Grimes. Grimes shows up. Lumis shoves him off the apron, and then Thatcher is able to pin him with an armbar. He locked him into submission first, and I remember when I was watching, I'm like, don't submit, Dexter, don't submit, and then Thatcher rolled him over and pinned him instead. So I'm glad that they didn't have Lumis submit there. After the match, Grimes jumps in the ring, continues the attack on Dexter Lumis, puts like a burlap sack over his head. Seems like they're setting up some sort of a gimmick match here. Sack on a pole match, sack on the head match, blindfold match, maybe. I don't know. But something seems like it is going to have one more gimmick encounter between Grimes and Lumis down the road. And that left us with our main event on NXT. It was a tag team title match, another third title match of the night. Breezango challenging for the tag team titles against Lorcan and Burch. Pat McAfee and his entire crew come out to escort Burch and Lorcan to the ring. Pat sticks around on commentary. The finish sees Pat McAfee get up on the apron to try to interfere, but Drake Maverick comes out to help out as well. I think he takes out Lorcan, who's on the top rope, and he takes out McAfee as well. Then Pete Dunne appears, takes out Drake, and ends his interference as Lorcan is able to hit the finisher with Burch on Fandango in the ring for the win and successfully defend the titles, which I figured that would happen. I could not see Breezango winning the belts back here, especially since Pat's pack is, brand new, and they're trying to get over, and it seems like they're setting up for some sort of a War Games match or big 4-on-4 with Undisputed Era. They needed to win here, and after the match, Drake tries to attack again. As they're all celebrating, he's on the top rope and he jumps in to attack them, but he's immediately swarmed by all four of them, and they kick the shit out of all three. So Drake, Fandango, and Tyler Breeze all get their asses kicked as the show goes off the air, and Pat McAfee's crew stood tall to close out NXT. Now, we had 3 title matches on this episode. Next week, we got a big one. Io Shirai defending the NXT title against Rhea Ripley. What do you guys think on Wednesday? Do we have a chance for a title change on Wednesday? And if we do, actually, if we do or don't, my one question to you is, do you think the loser could show up at Survivor Series? Because we've been talking about Ripley for a while. I think she either needs to find her way back to the NXT title or maybe go to the main roster. And she had a big win recently over Raquel Gonzalez. She's been building momentum back. I wouldn't mind seeing her take the title from Io Shirai on Wednesday, and then Io maybe shows up as a replacement in the 5-on-5 match, women's match at Survivor Series, or maybe confronts Asuka or Sasha, Asuka preferably, at the end of their match. And if Io retains, maybe that person could be Ripley. You know, because I don't think necessarily, like, for hypothetically, if Io drops the belt, I don't think she necessarily needs to stick around for a rematch. Keith Lee dropped the belt to Killer Cross, and he was on Raw 2 nights later. So you could have Io drop the belt here and then move her maybe to the Raw brand to give you some more contenders there. Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler seem to be caught up with the tag team scene still. And other than that, you know, who does Asuka really have on Raw as a credible opponent unless they put Alexa Bliss with her, who now has a little bit of extra added credibility because of what she's doing with The Fiend. So I think that's a possibility. Look for that on Wednesday. Look for possibly the loser here to turn up on Survivor Series, or maybe the post-Survivor Series Raw or something like that. But I think Survivor Series might be fun. Either replace somebody in the women's match, maybe like a Lana or something, and or have a face-to-face with Asuka. That might be fun. What do y'all think? That's actually it for NXT. So we can get into the main roster stuff now. We got to take a quick look at tomorrow night's Raw. We'll talk about Friday's SmackDown, and then I'll run through the current Survivor Series card. And then we'll hang out, answer some questions. Let me knock out these super chats that I missed while I was babbling. Chris, I got yours earlier. Deshaun, thank you, man, for $2 more. Leon Ruff had his 1-2-3 Kid moment. That's very similar. It's a good comparison there. The only difference is Kid didn't win the Intercontinental title. Imagine if he did. Imagine if Razor was IC champ at that point and Kid pulled off that win. Whew, my God. Could have worked. And Barry, what's up, dude? Thanks for the $2. Thoughts on Taker's hardcore title run? I barely remember that. When the hell did he win that? 02 or something? Io retains, everybody is saying? Okay. I'm fine with that. The cool thing about them is that I don't have a dog in that fight, man. Watching that on Wednesday night, just want to see a good match. Ripley wins, hell yeah. I'm in love with her. You guys all know that. If Io wins, I think she's a great champion and would love to see her maybe build an Asuka-like legacy there. It's going to be really impossible to duplicate what Asuka did, but can at least be comparable to it. And maybe, you know, Io to me seems like she's having the run that I thought Ripley would have, you know, but of course Ripley ran into Charlotte. So I think either way there, I'm going to be cool. And if that's what you guys think is going to happen, Io retains, Ripley to the main roster, cool with me. Let's just hope Ripley survives the main roster, because you know how that can be. 2001 against RVD. Oh, yeah, I kind of remember. That hardcore belt, man. What's going on, Sports Talk Network? Good to see you. Welcome. Keep smashing that thumbs up button for me. I appreciate it, y'all. All right. What's going to happen tomorrow on Raw? Big match. Maybe bigger than we think. Drew McIntyre challenges for the WWE title against Randy Orton tomorrow night on Raw. And as we're going to talk about here in a minute, on SmackDown, Drew McIntyre opened up the show and confronted Roman Reigns. Shouldn't that have been Randy Orton? So when Orton beat McIntyre for the title, we all thought that, that must mean that WWE doesn't want to do Drew versus Roman right now. Maybe save that for WrestleMania. Maybe save it for a bigger time. Even Triple H teased something in the last couple of weeks on Twitter or something about the two of them is like Hogan versus Flair, which is laughable, but you know, he's hyping it up as a big confrontation. And the fact that he came out here makes me wonder, well, maybe is WWE switching gears again? And if they are, why are they doing that? Why would they put the belt on Randy Orton clean at Hell in a Cell just to take it right off of him again in a couple of weeks. It's almost like, did they just want to add another title to Randy Orton's legacy for no reason? Is there a reason why they want him to have 13 or 14 or whatever it is? Or did they legitimately change their mind? Or did something else happen? Has WWE been in contact with The Rock? Like maybe they said, let's set the stage for Drew McIntyre and Roman Reigns at WrestleMania. But let's say they've been talking to The Rock this week, and The Rock's like, hey, looks like there might be fans at WrestleMania. If you do it at Tampa or whatever, I'd be open to a match with Roman. And so then they're like, okay, let's get the Drew and Roman match done now at Survivor Series. And even better, there's no title on the line, so you can get away with a lot more. I'm curious what it is here. Because based on what we saw on Friday, does any of that look like they're setting up for a Roman Reigns and Randy Orton match? Looks like they're setting up for Roman Reigns and McIntyre. So does Drew win tomorrow? Does he win tomorrow? Some people are saying yes. I think Monday Night Raw could use a world title change. I think Monday Night Raw has been impossible to watch. As a matter of fact, last Monday was my lowest viewership ever on a Monday Night Raw stream. Lowest ever. Never had that low of an audience before. So nobody was really watching. The ratings were shit. It was a show that you could have skipped and did nothing for the build. Very little for the build, I should say, to Survivor Series. A couple of entertaining moments, but for the most part, the show was completely skippable, and you missed nothing. This week, maybe this is a way to spice some things up and put a title change on the show. And if that's the case, that will put Drew in the ring with Roman, and it would be something that WWE has done a lot in recent years, switching the title right before Survivor Series. They did it with AJ and Jinder, then they did it with Bryan and AJ. They could be doing it again here with Drew and Orton, and I'm just curious what the reasoning is. Did they originally plan to have Orton and Roman, and they changed their mind, and they're like, oh, let's put the belt back on Drew because this direction is better? That seems like the likely option here because we all know they fly by the seat of their pants half the fucking time. So what happens tomorrow? Do we see, based on what we saw, I feel like Drew's winning the title tomorrow. I feel like he's going to win the title tomorrow. I also think that we could see an appearance by The Fiend because The Fiend has been teasing a feud with Randy Orton as well. One could make the argument that doesn't need the title. So if you have The Fiend show up or the lights go out or Alexa Bliss does something that's enough to distract Randy Orton enough for him to get Claymored and pinned and lose the title, and now you can move into a Randy Orton and The Fiend feud, and you don't have to worry about having the title on the line. You can just do a program between them, which might be kind of fun, I suppose. And then Drew can go on to face Roman, and then after that, he can come back to Raw and supposedly maybe have another challenger. Is that where it feels like it's going? And if it is, and Orton moves on to work with The Fiend, what the hell does Drew do? Who's his next, challenger? Or is he going to be mixed up in The Fiend and Randy Orton stuff and they do a triple threat or some shit like that? I don't know. I don't know, but it feels like everything we saw on Friday pointed to it being about Drew and Roman. That being the center stage now all of a sudden, with him, crossing the lines there and jumping over to SmackDown on Friday. I don't know. I don't know, but I feel like tomorrow night there's a very good chance of a title change. I guess I'll predict that he's going to win just based on what we saw on Friday. Why would they go through all of that on Friday just to do Roman and Orton after all? It feels like Roman is the one that should have confronted, or Orton should have been the one to confront Roman Reigns, and Orton should have been the one to have the match against Jey Uso and the stare down with Roman at the end, and they didn't. They did it with Drew. So feels like they're changing their minds as they go here is what it feels like to me. But you got the briefcase, don't forget, as Andrew points out. You could have a cash-in tomorrow. I don't want to see that. I think that would absolutely suck. I don't mind a cash-in tease, but I don't want to cash in. Because the last thing I want to see is Roman Reigns and The Miz. Well, it might be fun because The Miz will get killed. But still, that's not, when you got a possibility to have Roman and Orton or Roman and Drew, either one of those two scenarios to me is just a million times better than Roman and Miz. So I'm going to vote no on the cash-in, but I think that a likely appearance by The Fiend is possible in that match for sure, especially if it sets Orton and The Fiend on course to feud with each other, which means they're both going to be not on Survivor Series, Orton and The Fiend, unless they add a match at the last minute between the two. I don't know, but we'll see. I feel like I feel like we could see a title change. It would be weird now, wouldn't it, to see them do everything they did on Friday and then have Orton retain, and then you're switching gears again and you're going with Orton and Roman. They still have one more show to hype that, but they've done nothing on TV to hype that. Unless Roman crosses the lines just like Drew McIntyre did. Maybe Roman shows up tomorrow and does something to cost McIntyre, or I don't know, or some shit. But again, that still puts him in the ring with Orton, and the two of them, at least on TV, don't have any issues with each other, and they're going to have one night to get that done this coming Friday when the two potentially maybe come face-to-face on SmackDown 2 days ahead of their title-for-title match, or champion versus champion match. I just feel like the signs are pointing to McIntyre becoming a two-time champion. Maybe giving him a little bit better of a victory, maybe more of a memorable world title victory. Maybe it's about that. Maybe they said, not only will we put the belt back on Randy Orton for a short time, but it's going to give Drew a chance to, at least win one in the Thunderdome, because his match with Brock was so flat and it was just in the empty building like that, and maybe not the way you want your world title win to be remembered. Maybe they want to create a new moment for him or something. I don't know, but we'll see. I think there's a good chance we see a title change tomorrow. So that brings us to last Friday's SmackDown. Like I said, Roman Reigns is in the ring. Drew comes out to confront him, gets in his face. Roman did some great heel work here, saying, no one watches Raw, dude. Ever since I came back, nobody pays attention to you. McIntyre even called Roman out for leaving. When you left and you left everybody high and dry, WWE needed, somebody to fill the void, and that someone was me. I'm the man now. And Roman's like, I like you, Drew, but you're nothing. I mean, look at me. I mean, everybody, nobody watches Raw. Nobody watches you. Ever since I came back, you mean nothing to them. And he even says, look at what I've done for my cousin Jey Uso, who nobody knew which twin he was prior to his association with me. Now he's in main events on pay-per-views and shit. So all really good points by both guys. Uso comes out and lays down. He gets in the middle of all of this. He kind of felt like a third wheel there, tries to get right in between them. And Roman chews him out backstage for this, by the way, later on, and lays down a challenge to Drew McIntyre to face him in the main event. Adam Pearce later on backstage makes the match official, and that was going to be our main event of SmackDown, Drew McIntyre against Jey Uso. I like that main event, even though I think it completely shits on the brand split and everything. At least it's Survivor Series time. Normally we give them a pass for this type of stuff at Survivor Series time, but it's always like this. Even if it wasn't Survivor Series time, if WWE wanted to have McIntyre on the show, they just put him on the show. The draft, the brand extension, the brand split, whatever you want to call it, it doesn't mean jack shit. We had a little bit of a scare in the first match because Sami Zayn, I believe, defended the Intercontinental title against Apollo Crews, and he's got a match on Sunday against Bobby Lashley. And how bad would it have sucked if Apollo Crews won the Intercontinental title and went to face fucking Bobby Lashley after all of those matches Apollo had with the Hurt Business? But luckily, Sami Zayn escaped via countout with his Intercontinental title. And like I said in the last couple of episodes, I think Sami Zayn and Lashley might be a sleeper match there. That match I'm looking forward to a little bit more than I thought I would for some reason, just because they're both at a very different place than where they were the first time they feuded. And that's going to mean so much more this time. After that, we had a Sasha Banks promo. She apparently seemingly wrapped up her situation, at least for the time being, with Bayley last week by successfully defending her title against her, correct? She comes out to the ring before she can even really say a whole lot. Bayley's music hits, so you think Bayley's going to come out there and confront her, but instead she's ambushed and attacked by Carmella. So clearly Carmella is going to be the next challenger in front of Sasha after Sasha is done with Asuka on Sunday, and Carmella best not be winning this title from Sasha. I fully expect Sasha to come on top of that feud with Carmella and go on to have at least a few more challengers before even thinking about dropping that belt. We had Dolph Ziggler was also on SmackDown, correct? Isn't he on Raw? He took on Otis again, so they're rehashing this old angle. Otis beat him. After the match, Otis is approached backstage by Chad Gable, who gives him like a little pamphlet for like Alpha Academy. So it almost looks like even though they've changed him back to Chad Gable, he's still being a very kind of cheesy ass gimmick, very similar to Shorty G. Now it appears that he's got this academy and he wants to try to help people, and he's going to be a little bit full of himself because of his collegiate and Olympic accomplishments and things like that he's done on the amateur level. And I think that maybe if done right, you could have the Alpha Academy going on SmackDown, and provided it's not stupid, it doesn't suck, and you've got Thatch Can going on in NXT, that might make a fun, maybe confrontation or maybe a fun cinematic type of match around WrestleMania time. I mean, that's looking way ahead. Chad Gable's never been anything other than a joke on the main roster, but if they do this Alpha Academy thing right, might be fun, and it makes me immediately think of Timothy Thatcher on NXT. So that could be a fun match maybe down the road for those guys, given their individual skills that they have. Next up, boy, there's a lot going on here. We had basically like the final chapter match or whatever they were calling it. It was a no-holds-barred match between Rey Mysterio and Seth Rollins one final time. This issue's been going on ever since, July, during the eyeball match or whatever. And there's been talk now that Becky is getting close to her due date, that Seth is going to be bouncing for a few weeks. He's probably going to take the rest of the year off after Survivor Series to go be with Becky while she gives birth and has their baby. So if he's going to wrap up his storyline here with Rey Mysterio, they got to do a couple of things. They got to finish this storyline, and they also need to get Buddy Murphy away from him. And we've been seeing the Buddy Murphy and Aaliyah stuff on TV, which a lot of fans have a lot of opinions about because of the age difference between the two and that sort of thing. And it was a little surprising that they went in this direction. Even a couple of weeks ago on SmackDown, they kissed and shit, and just based on what's been going on this year with the speaking out movement and so many of the accusations made on a lot of wrestlers for some of their perverted behavior, a lot of fans felt like WWE really wasn't reading the room, and this was kind of an insensitive angle to have right around now. Not that there's anything illegal going on here, but you're talking about a 31-year-old and a 19-year-old or whatever it was. So a lot of fans were a little bit put off by that. And WWE, it feels like they're at least trying to book the storyline kind of in the right way. They're trying to paint Buddy as somebody that really does care for Aaliyah. She's not in any harm's way with him. He's not, he cares about her. He's not going to let anything happen to her. He's not going to hurt her. He's been trying to prove himself. The family has been very resistant to that. And then I think it was last week on SmackDown or whatever, he kind of appeared to realign himself with Seth Rollins. And I saw through that shit right away. As soon as he did that, I'm like, oh, he's just going to turn again. So here, the way they're building this matchup between Rey and Seth is the final chapter. They both made mention that this is going to be it for both of them. There's talk about Seth taking some time off now. I could kind of see what was going to happen here. To me, when they made their entrances and Buddy came out with Seth, I'm like, Buddy's going to turn on him. Buddy's going to help Rey win here. Seth's going to go on his way, and then, Buddy can be a full-blown babyface. It's pretty much exactly what they did here. It was a really good match between the two. But still, it's a no-holds-barred match, and for some reason, Rey decides to bring his entire family out to the ring, which I wasn't sure if that was that smart. But in the end, he does win after a botched 619. Yikes, because I believe this show was filmed live. He botches the 619, but kind of gets back up on his horse, hits it again, nails Seth with the splash, and that's when he gets the win. Now, prior to this, that's when Buddy Murphy does the turn. He gets in the ring. It looks like he's going to be holding Rey Mysterio for Seth to nail or whatever, and that's when he hits Seth with the running knee, knocks him out cold, and Rey got the victory after that, I believe, is the sequence of events that went down there. So after the match, after Seth is beat, he leaves. Buddy kind of proves himself to the Mysterio family. Aaliyah comes in and hugs him, and then Rey Mysterio comes up and shakes his hand, and even her mom hugs him. Dominic accepts Buddy, and Buddy seems like he's going to be now welcomed in to the Mysterio family as an actual significant other to somebody that's a lot younger than him, So, I mean, in a way, even though fans probably have a problem with this on the surface because of the age difference and everything, at least they're not making it like Attitude Era-ish. At least they're not poking fun at the age difference, or because I mean, look at Jerry. This is nothing compared to Jerry Lawler. Jerry Lawler is 30 years older than some of his girlfriends, and that's in real life. So at least they're making Buddy, at least in storyline, a stand-up dude. Yes, I know there's an age difference. Yes, I know this makes parents maybe a little bit uncomfortable, but I really love your daughter, and I want to show you that I care about her. And then he does, and he proves himself, and then the family welcomes him and says, and it just takes a while for them to accept him. Now, where it goes from here is what could be interesting. There could be one of two things here. Buddy can either do something to break the heart of Aaliyah and turning the Mysterios on him, but I don't see that in the immediate future because we've seen a lot of Buddy Murphy and Dominic and Mysterio matches already. So I don't think that's the case. Somebody pointed out that they might do a wedding on SmackDown. Wrestling weddings are always a hoot, right? I hope that like this said, Russo is not there. Vince Russo is not there, so I don't think there's going to be anything really scandalous or salacious here, because when Seth originally questioned the paternity of Dominic and Aaliyah, there was some talk that maybe Buddy and Aaliyah were brother and sister. I don't know. Whatever they do, I hope they stay the fuck away from that. And if they're gonna go through with this relationship between these two, at least make it a mutual one. At least make it to where, yes, it's a little bit unconventional. He's older than her, but he has good intentions, and these two kids are just in love. Let them be. Let them do their thing or whatever. I don't know, but I don't think it. At first I was kind of turned off by it, but I don't know. It depends on where it goes. It is what it is. WWE obviously doesn't think there's that big of a deal to it. And, back in the day, the roles are reversed here. When a younger man gets with an older woman, he's giving high fives and shit. So I was deflowered by somebody 10 years older than me, so it does happen there. And I think as long as WWE keeps this relationship, with good intentions and makes Buddy a stand-up guy where he's not taking advantage of somebody that's younger and more immature than him, or manipulating her, or doing something to infiltrate and destroy the Mysterio family, which could wind up being, the end result here, especially with Seth gone and Buddy wants to create his own empire or his own stable or something like that. But he was kind of heel, went to babyface, went back to heel, back to babyface again. Maybe keep him where he is, and try to get him over as a babyface with Aaliyah backing him up, and we might even get a wedding on TV, which you gotta wonder what the climax there will be. How often on wrestling weddings do we actually get I do's? So if we get an Aaliyah and Buddy Murphy wedding, something's going down. Some sort of twist, some swerve, something I think will happen. Hit me with your storyline ideas in the comments, because I don't know where the hell this thing is going. But it looks like now, finally, mercifully, this Rey Mysterio and Seth Rollins program that has gone on way too long, if you ask me, is finally over. And best of luck to Seth after Survivor Series, if he does indeed take some time off to go home and witnesses the birth of his child. Wish him and Becky the best. Hope they get back on TV real soon. Only a couple of matches left on SmackDown. One of those was that Fatal 4-Way that I alluded to earlier on. It was a qualifying match. The winner will get the final spot, I believe, I believe it's the final spot on the Women's Survivor Series team. It was Natalya taking on Tamina versus Liv Morgan versus Chelsea Green. They hinted to this backstage prior to the match. She talked to Adam Pearce, I think, or whatever, and she is able to debut in this 4-way, and you feel like when she's coming down to the ring making her debut that she's going to win the match. But the match was only a couple of minutes long. She gets knocked out of the match really early on and is really a non-factor, allowing Liv Morgan to pin Natalya and get the win, as Natalya's all pissed off because she feels that she should just be given the spot on the Survivor Series team due to her experience and stuff. But Adam Pearce has none of it, makes her go out there and earn it. She loses it to Liv, and the reason we didn't see a whole lot of Chelsea Green is because apparently she broke her wrist in the match, which I just think is horrible. It just sucks. Why even bring her out there for this? Why even debut her? As far as I know, they didn't call an audible. I suppose it's possible that she was supposed to win, broke her wrist, they put Liv over instead. But I don't think so. I think Liv was probably the plan the whole time, which means why the hell did you even debut her? So not only did you give her a flat debut, you got her injured. So WWE, I hate it when they just write shit out. They just come up with shit on the fly that a lot of times, a wrestler's career can hang in the balance. And if they just would have put anybody in there, because if Liv is going to win this match, you could have put any female wrestler currently active on the SmackDown roster in that match. Same outcome, same result. Nothing is different. And we don't have a broken wrist from a brand new person that's supposed to be debuting. So I don't know how long she'll be out of action for. Hopefully she'll get back as soon as she can. And that's a bummer for Chelsea Green. Hopefully Zack Ryder will take good care of her. I'm sure he will. Main event saw Drew McIntyre, of course, taking on Jey Uso. Pretty good match here. Good to see Jey featured in these high matches. I'm never going to complain about that. Drew, of course, delivers a pretty swift Claymore to Jey Uso for the win as Roman Reigns watches on, and there's kind of like a stare down between the two at the end as the show goes off the air. So that brings us to tomorrow. If we think Drew McIntyre is going to win the title based on everything we saw here, I think that he is. So that should be fun. Tomorrow night we'll be up here immediately following Raw for a review, and we might be talking about a brand new WWE champion. We'll see. We'll get into the Survivor Series card here in a second. First of all, want to thank Barry for the $5. What WWE is doing with Aaliyah now is nothing compared to Kelly in 2006. That's true. And yeah, like I said, as long as in 2006, it was a different time. So a storyline like this would probably be done even more in bad taste than it is now. I think now in modern times, WWE has a chance to at least make, because sometimes there are, odd couples, sometimes, opposites do attract. Sometimes, you hear about, a 65-year-old woman in love with a 32-year-old man, and they're madly in love to get together. It might seem weird to us, but to them, it's love, and nobody's going to tell them what to do kind of thing. So if they kind of turned it into that, to where Buddy and Aaliyah prove that they really do belong together despite the differences, despite their, where they're from or how old they are, especially that sort of thing. If they can kind of make it a, more of a respectful type of storyline and go in more respectful direction rather than a sleazy direction, I think it's all right. I'm not going to SJW this or whatever the fuck, it's okay. It's just, don't make it like tasteless, or don't make it distasteful in any way is really all I request of WWE in this angle. And the fact that, Ray and Mom and brother all kind of accept Buddy in, he's probably a pretty decent guy. So let's give Buddy a break, I suppose. It's weird, but it is what it is, as they say. That leaves us with the Survivor Series card. Here's what we've got. What do we got? 6 matches currently announced. This is probably it, unless they add something on the kickoff or they add a last-minute one here. But based on the fact that it's Raw versus SmackDown themed, this is probably going to be it. We've got, of course, the 5-on-5 women's Raw versus SmackDown match, the 5-on-5 men's Raw versus SmackDown match. We have Intercontinental Champion Sami Zayn taking on U.S. Champion Bobby Lashley. We got Raw Tag Team Champions The New Day taking on the Street Profits in what I think is the sleeper match. I know I mentioned Lashley and Sami is one that I'm looking forward to, but New Day and Street Profits I think is going to be a sleeper. And I think it sucks that they're on separate brands. I would almost like to see a New Day feud with the Street Profits similar to what New Day did with the Usos. That was just great tag team stuff. And I think this match is going to be off the hook. So I'm ready for some Montez Ford frog splashes. I'm ready for some Kofi flips and some Xavier stuff. I think it's going to be a great match and one that I'm looking the most forward to. And I think that would be a great opener. I think they should open with that. They should, for sure. Of course, we also have Asuka, Raw Women's Champion, taking on Sasha Banks, SmackDown Women's Champion, and as of right now, Randy Orton versus Roman Reigns. But after tomorrow, that could very well change to Drew McIntyre and Roman Reigns as Randy Orton heads into a feud with The Fiend, potentially. I thought that was a text message. It was just telling me that, or ESPN told me that the Cardinals won a game with a Hail Mary. DeAndre Hopkins snags 43-yard TD from Kyler Murray between 3 Bills defenders with 2 seconds left. Holy shit. If you guys are watching that looked pretty good. Anyway, so that's it for Survivor Series. That's what we got. Like I said, this coming Saturday, we will fully predict the pay-per-view one day before it airs. And we'll be doing a full Survivor Series review as well. So just to recap, we got Raw review tomorrow night immediately following the show. Undertaker Complete 30-Year History at Survivor Series podcast drops on Wednesday. This coming Saturday, Winged Eagle podcast and Survivor Series predictions. And 1 week from tonight, Survivor Series review immediately following the pay-per-view. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4 videos coming up in the next 7 days. That's awesome. Should be a fun week here. Survivor Series week. Let me cruise through here and knock out a couple more super chats. I got one from Martin that I missed. And see if there's any other things you guys want to talk about in the chat, and then I'm going to bounce on out of here. Martin, appreciate the 5 as well. I think something between Alexa and Nikki Cross will go down tomorrow night. That's right. Nikki Cross has been very upset at Alexa Bliss. She feels that Alexa has chosen The Fiend over her. They've had a couple of interactions on TV, on Raw, one of which Alexa Bliss didn't even remember. So, yeah, I think Alexa needs to demolish Nikki Cross. I think something needs to happen where it finally implodes, some sort of a segment in the ring, and then Alexa puts her down with the claw, or the Sister Abigail, or something, and just makes it known. Because as of right now, Nikki, I believe, can still approach Alexa. Like, that's still safe. But maybe after tomorrow night, that's not going to be an option for Nikki anymore. And she needs to steer clear of Alexa, because not only is she possessed, she's engaged. So she's a mess right now. Stay away from Alexa Bliss. Yeah, predict. The 5-on-5 matches. I think Team Raw will win. They're a pretty strong team. I mean, Keith Lee, Strowman, Riddle, AJ, and Sheamus. Is that who it is? I don't even know who the fuck's on the SmackDown team. Jey Uso. That's all I know. Who's on the SmackDown team? I think Raw's winning. I think Raw's winning the 5-on-5. Oh, thank you for that, Andrew. I was way wrong. So they got some spots left. They're going to have to qualify those on Friday then. So there's 2 spots left in the women's team. I don't even know who's on these teams. You guys have to help me. Which country am I from? Antarctica. Born and raised. I went to Glacier University. Learned a lot. Majored in marine biology. I don't know, Andrew. That's what you think? So I can see the first half of that coming true. You've got Drew winning the title back tomorrow, but you also have him going into Sunday beating Roman. I think it's a very unlikely possibility Roman gets beat. I suppose that Roman owes him a win from WrestleMania 35, maybe. But based on Roman, kind of being the top heel right now in the company and all of his momentum, I'm not beating him until WrestleMania. So I think Roman doesn't necessarily have to beat Drew, but something needs to happen in the match. I suppose, they already did. I'm about to say, Roman still doesn't seem to be that happy with Jey. Jey could fuck up or something or interfere and screw over Roman, but even with outside interference, even by a fluke, I still don't want to see Roman lose. So I'm kind of voting no on Roman going down at Survivor Series. No way, man. Yeah, we got Damian also kind of smelling a Miz cash-in. We talked about that a little while ago. I don't think we want Miz and Roman Reigns at Survivor Series. That's what that would mean. I'm all for a cash-in. I'm all for a swerve or a surprise or something like that. But the timing for the Miz seems off. He's such an obnoxious dick with that briefcase that I think the longer he hangs on to it, the better he can taunt us and be an asshole on TV. I think they've got some time with him. They technically have until June to really worry about, or May, whenever the hell it was. They've got a while to get that briefcase off of him. So I don't think they necessarily need to do it right now. And if they did it tomorrow, that sets up a really kind of like lackluster match in my mind. If you go from Roman and Orton to possibly Roman and Drew to then Roman and Miz, it could be all 3 of those options. You could even have Drew McIntyre win the title tomorrow and Miz cash in on him, have 2 title changes in the same match. Either way, though, that results in Roman and Miz, and I don't want to see that. So I'm hoping, I'm not saying you're wrong, but I'm hoping it doesn't happen. I don't want to see that. What if Aaliyah turns on Murphy? Yeah. I mean, do they have plans for her to wrestle? Has she been? I mean, she probably is. Look how good Dominic is. If Dominic is as good as he is, I have no doubt that Aaliyah probably knows her way around a squared circle a little bit. But if she turns on Murphy, what do you do then? Feud them? And who does she feud with? So she could turn on him, but why? And then where do you go from there? If she turns, does that mean the entire Mysterio family turns with her? Or does she turn and Buddy stays with the Mysterios and then she's like the outcast or the rebel now, and then she's a heel and she disowns the family and just kind of becomes a heel on her own? She's too quiet. She's too reserved. She's too nice. She's too innocent looking. She's got that just pretty innocent look to her. I can't see her as somebody like a vicious, scorned she-devil, that kicks poor Murphy in the nuts, and then just goes on a rampage, just trampling over anybody in her way. I don't see that from her. She seems a lot more like Miss Elizabeth than sensational Sherry to me. You know what I mean? So I don't think she has it in her. But I said the same thing about Dominic. The dude can wrestle. So who knows? I'm sure this is all just a way to introduce Aaliyah to the audience, get us used to seeing her, get us used to hearing her voice, seeing her face, seeing her presence on TV, and then slowly work her into more storylines. I'm assuming this is all part of Ray's deal when he came back. He goes, look, you're giving all my whole family jobs. I want my kids to have contracts. I want my wife out there fucking ringside with me. Feels like all that was worked out prior to him sticking around. Hey, Michael, what's going on, man? Appreciate the 2. Now we have 2 Aaliyahs, one in WWE and NXT. I know I mentioned that a few weeks back. I asked you guys if you thought WWE would change NXT Aaliyah's name. I do think they're spelled differently, I think. They might not be. But I actually wondered if they would do that because I remember they didn't want like 2 Shanes in WWE. I think that's why they made Hurricane change his name to Gregory Helms instead of Shane Helms. And there was another situation like that too where they didn't want 2 first name people or whatever. So I could kind of see that if they did. But yeah, 2 Aaliyahs. Oh yeah, well, Stephanie, man. Stephanie was like that too. She was very nice before she turned heel. But you got to understand there's a big difference between Stephanie's dad and Aaliyah's dad. You know, yeah, Stephanie on the surface was all nice and innocent, but she had that evil in her. It was instilled in her from birth. It's in her goddamn DNA. Where, you know, Mysterio, you know, they're a loving family, you know, and Ray has always been beloved and has respect, and he's a good stand-up guy, and he doesn't have the cutthroat evilness to him that the McMahons does. It doesn't run through their bloodline the way it does with the McMahons, where I think Stephanie, you know, it laid dormant, you know, until it was brought out, where Aaliyah, I just don't feel like, just based on what we've seen of Aaliyah so far, she doesn't feel like she's got that in her. You know? Yeah, like I said, she feels much more Miss Elizabeth than Sherry or Woman. You know, Woman had a nasty side to her too, you know? I don't see it in little Aaliyah. She's too young. But we'll see. We'll see where it all goes. Arnez Cooper, good to see you. What's going on? What's up, Rammy? Yeah, it is a lot like that. You know, the comparisons to Aaliyah and Stephanie are the same because I know that back in the day, Vince and Shane were very resistant to like the test relationship. But even there wasn't the age difference you see now. They were a little closer in age, but I think it was more just, you know, her dating a wrestler, which that should be enough. You know, that should be enough to, you shouldn't need to do the age thing because Ray, as a professional wrestler who's also a father who knows how wrestlers can be, that should be enough. Just the fact that his daughter wants to date a wrestler, he should be like, nah, they suck. You don't want to date them. I'm against that based on what he knows about them. But you didn't really need to do the age thing in my mind. Yeah, but we'll see. Anyway, oh yeah, I don't know if we can, Cody. That might be a good idea to kind of turn Nikki. You know, because we just talked about that a minute ago with Nikki Cross and Alexa Bliss. You know, if Alexa does do something to Nikki that maybe points Nikki back in that direction, and her attitude and her personality when she was in Sanity, you know, maybe that would just be enough to push her over the edge and turn her back crazy again. Remember when she was great? Remember when she showed up on Raw? I'll play with you, Becky. You know, I love that Nikki Cross. She's been gone. You know, this new Alexa Bliss might just be the person to bring that Nikki Cross back. I would love to see. That's a great idea. So maybe if we get something tomorrow where Alexa officially attacks Nikki and puts her down, and then, you know, Nikki has been very distraught. She feels like she's lost a friend. That could make her go crazy. Maybe she could have a nervous breakdown, and next thing you know, she's pulling out her hair and coming down to the ring and running around and doing all the crazy shit like she used to do. And it would be a good way. That'd be a good catalyst to get her back to being who she used to be, because we all liked that Nikki Cross. And even though she's still very likable on TV, she ain't the way she was. That character, I thought, you know, was going to do big things, and then they brought her to the main roster, separate from Sanity, turned her just a regular old schmo on the women's roster, and, you know, did away with everything that made her special to begin with. So I think Alexa can bring that back out of her. That's what I want to see. So anyway, we will find out. You guys will see me in 24 hours. I will be back up here tomorrow night, immediately following Monday Night Raw. So make sure you join me. Hopefully we'll have a lot more to talk about than this past week, and we could be very well looking at a brand new WWE champion in Drew McIntyre. So I appreciate you guys hanging out tonight. Thank you very much for everything, and